Good afternoon. It is still Tuesday the 13th of July, and I read this morning chapter 5 of the book Life in the World Unseen by A.Borgia, and I was interrupted 2 pages before the end. So I will call this chapter 6, which is entitled Some Questions Answered, but I shall read the ending, page 51 and 52, of the previous chapter 5. They were in a hall. Knowledge and learning, education or erudition do not connote spiritual worth, and the inability to read and write do not imply the absence of it. But when a soul has passed into this life, when he sees the great broad spiritual thoroughfare opening before him, with its opportunities both manifold and multiform, he sees also that knowledge can help him on his spiritual way. He may not be able to read. Are all those splendid books to remain forever close to him now that he has the opportunity to read, while lacking the ability? Perhaps it will be asked, surely it is not necessary to be able to read in the spirit world. Things being what they are, there must be some form of mental perception to be gathered from books without the material aid of printed words. The same question might be asked of pictures and of all else. Why the need for anything tangible? If we pursue this line of thought, it will take us to that state of vacuity I have just mentioned. The man who is unable to read will feel with his mind that something is contained within the book that he takes into his hands, but he will not know instinctively or in any other way the contents of it. But one who can read will, immediately upon his commencing to do so, find himself en rapport with the author's thoughts set down, and the book will thus respond to him who reads. To be able to write is not necessary, and many who have been unable to do so before passing here have not bothered to supply the omission after their arrival. We found in this school many souls busy with their studies and thoroughly enjoying them. To acquire knowledge here is not tedious, because the memory works perfectly, that is, unfailingly, and the powers of mental perception are no longer hampered and confined by a physical brain. Our faculties for understanding are sharpened, and intellectual expansion is sure and steady. The school was the home of realized ambitions to most of the students within it. I chatted with a number of them, and each told me that what he was studying now he had longed to study on earth, but had been denied the opportunity for reasons that are all too familiar. Some had found that commercial activities had left no time, or that the struggle for a living had absorbed all that the means to do so. The school was very comfortably arranged. There was, of course, no hint of regimentation. Each student followed his own course of study, independently of anyone else. He seated himself comfortably, or he went into the lovely gardens without. He began when he wanted, and he finished when he wanted, and the more he dipped into his studies, the more interested and fascinated he became. I can speak from personal experience of the latter, since there is much that I have studied in the great library since my first introduction to it. As we left the school, Edwin suggested that we might like to sit on the grass beneath some fine trees and rest ourselves. That was simply his way, a perfectly natural one of expressing it. We do not suffer bodily fatigue, but at the same time we do not continue endlessly at the same occupation. That would mean monotony, and there is no monotony here, such as we used to endure on earth. But Edwin knew from experience the different emotions that take place in the minds of newly arrived souls into spirit lands, and so he halted, for the time being, our further exploration. I think I will stop chapter 5 here, because it is then just a second little bit, and the next reading will be chapter 6, Some Questions Answered. I'm hot as well.